Very good evening to everybody. Yesterday we were discussing regarding the chapter number 24, the concluding part. Some part is still remaining, the examination of the patient. Kent has given four chapters, four lectures on this specifically the case taking part and certain aspects, the most practical aspect he tried to explain over there. In last lecture, he has explained in more detail how one should be patient while taking the follow-ups. Generally, we should not become impatient and go on changing the remedies off and on. If we go on changing the remedies off and on, we go into the confusion, and this confusion itself creates a problem. So, that confusion, because of confusion, we cannot get a cure which we expect. Instead of that, if we start with a proper remedy after taking a thorough case taking, and we must inquire all the details right from the start of the disorder, even it might be 10 years back, 20 years back, and find it out a right remedy depending upon whole symptomatology as it has been evolved. Then, if we get a right remedy and we prescribe that remedy to the patient and wait for certain time for the remedy to act, then definitely we get a proper results. And that's why one should not be in hurry in changing the prescriptions off and on. The drugging itself produces a confusion. And this is a very practical hint which is given by Hahnemann over there as well as explained by Kent in detail over there. Now we will continue with the concluding part of this chapter, the which is related with the aphorism number 94. So Kent, up till now, right from 83 to 93, those aphorisms he has discussed regarding the case taking and their glimpses he has tried to explain over there. Now let us go ahead. What Kent want to say about the aphorism number 94? Aphorism 94. On inquiry into a stage of chronic disease, it is required to weigh the particular circumstances in which the patient may be placed in regard to the ordinary occupation, mode of life, and domestic situation. See, he has tried to explain three important things. If you are dealing with the occupation of the person, chronic case, if you are dealing with the chronic case of the patient, and at that time, occupation plays a very vital role. Generally, what happens, we ask the occupation, what is your occupation? He says, I am self-employed. Then you ask, what is your business? And he tells you business. That's all. We should not do that. That is not the homeopathic aspect of going into the occupation. One important question one must always ask. Whatever may be the occupation patient explains, put one question because that defines you directly the state of the person. If you ask, are you happy with your occupation? This is too important question. Are you happy with your occupation? Are you satisfied with your occupation? Most important thing one must ask. Because if you ask the patient and patient tells doctor, actually I don't want to do a business, but because there was a business in our family since long time and because of which I have to do it. There was no other way and because of which I'm doing. Really speaking, I'm not happy. Actually I wanted to do a service. See, everyone's aspect looking toward their occupation is different, and that aspect defines the nature of the person. There was one person who came to me with chronic rhinitis. It was way back in early my practice in the 1993-94. This fellow came to me and when I was taking his history, he was a case of chronic allergic rhinitis since 10 years, was not satisfied, not getting result with allopathy, and that's why he came for homeopathic treatment. I was taking the preliminary data and first only asked his education, and he says MSc B.Ed. When you have passed MSc B.Ed, he explained that it was in 1972. 1972 MSc B.Ed. I just asked what is your occupation because I was knowing his occupation. He was having a business shop, bicycle business. So I asked, why do you do a business then? The answer which was reflected was very important. He explained, sir, what is there in the service? There is no security in the job. Uh, we have running business and it's good already. So we that insecurity which is expressed through his nature while explaining the occupation defines the person's nature. I have given him Calcaria and he recovered very nicely with the Calcaria because the rest of the things were upper Calcaria. But I got that theme early in the way. So occupation, second mode of life and domestic situation, mode of living, very important. How the person comes. A person who comes to you, a educated person, double graduate holder, and comes to you in such a normal dressing that he doesn't look like that he is a double graduate. That is what you have to look for. These are very important. The mode of living that indicates the indifference to the personal appearance, the sulfur personality. So every aspect when you look toward the case is having importance, the mode of living, and lastly he explains the domestic situation, very important because many of the disorders, the root is always hidden in the domestic relations. How there are the relations between the parents, between the relatives, all those things, those members who are there in the family, and many times the disputes between them are very much responsible to produce a disorder. And Schulten, if you read the Anne Schulten's book, The Homeopathy and Minerals, you will get that he has given very clear-cut indication certain things. If my mother is shit, that is the, and then he has explained ammonium muriaticum. My father is shit, my ammonium carbonicum. He says that problems which related with the mother are always related with the muriaticum group, the carbon related with the father. So all those things that has a big impact, and you with which you can understand the person in detail as well as the remedy in detail. And that's why it is too much important to know the domestic situation. Almost everything in the life is circumstantial. All the activities of the life are circumstantial. All the activities of the life are circumstantial. That is, there are no activities that are not governed by circumstance. So every off and on around us, many incidences happens. The circumstances happen, and we react. Till we adapt, we are in state of fail. Till adaptation, once adaptation disappears, the disorder disappears. Disordered appears. There is no business that is not governed by circumstance. The circumstances of man's life govern his actions and reactions and symptoms, the symptoms and the development of symptoms. Body is associated with circumstances. Every function is related to the circumstance, and we may say all the natural functions of the life are connected with the circumstance. So everything around us is related with the circumstances. Many incidences happens in our life, and we react. Without this, we would have nothing to prescribe upon. We would have nothing to ascertain images by. We would have nothing to form the symptoms. Hence, the circumstances of the life and habit must be studied with a view to going into the slightest particular. So, whatever happens in patient's life, that you must ask. So, you must ask certain, you must form certain questions. I used to ask, which is the which is the happiest moment in your life and what is your reaction to that, which is the saddest moment in your life and what was your reaction, because you understand both cause and effects and the reactions, that on the basis of which you can judge that how what is the nature of that person. So circumstances and reactions give you individuality of that individual. To illustrate that more particularly and to bring it down to a particular basis, practical basis, we may say that the examination of every woman relates to her eating, to her stool, her menstruation, her bathing, her dress, because there are the things natural to, these are the things which are natural to her. These are the circumstances in which her symptoms may come and may not come. So you have to ask in detail whenever you are dealing with the woman, whenever you are related with the females. The questions related with eating, related with her defecation, related with menstruation, related with the bathing, related with the dressing, everything, because individual aspect is there. The reactions are individualistic. Every woman react to such situations in a different manner, and you must get the individuality. And that's why these are the things one must inquire. Until the woman is educated to it, she does not understand. What do you mean, doctor? She says. Then I will say, you have given me this symptom. You say you have headache, stomach ache, etc. Now, will you proceed to relate to me under what circumstance this headache appears? How it is affected by your changes in dress, by the changes in weather, how it is affected before, during, or after your monthly indisposition, and so on. Now, these are the natural circumstances. So, patient comes to you with a migraine, and patient gives you, yes, I am having migraine. Give me a medicine. Is it possible to prescribe? Not at all. Because you are not getting anything on the basis of which you can come to the conclusion. Then it is your duty to ask regarding all those things, where exactly the location. Then you have to ask regarding the sensation, what type of headache is there, what type of sensation is there. Then you have to ask regarding the modalities. When it gets aggravated, when it gets ameliorated, what do you do when headache starts? You have to ask regarding the concomitants, if any concomitants are present along with that, because then and then that symptom become complete, and sometimes it becomes characteristic, which will guide you to the right remedy. And that's why vague symptoms never gives you anything. So you have to inquire regarding all those circumstances which have either aggravation modality or amelioration modality. Then he further says, in addition to these, another group of circumstances comes up, a group of circumstances somewhat different in relation to ordinary occupation. Every person will have circumstances more particular than those in general. Occupation will make changes in the circumstances of young woman. She may be standing upon the floor of Wanamaker's store all day, and this has produced a condition of prolapse. Or she may lead a sedentary life at her work as seamstress, and she may be at some other occupation, the circumstance of which will develop her psoric manifestation. So he is giving one more example, the occupation, how it affects. There are some occupational hazards which can develop. We know common examples because we have read it in surgery book. A person who used to stand for longer time of duration, like conductor, who used to suffer from the varicosities. This is common example, but many problems arises. Long continued standing always creates the problem. He has given one example of prolapsus uterus. But you cannot say to the patient that you stop your occupation. Is it possible? It is not possible. Then you have to understand, if standing aggravates that patient, that is one important thing. Standing is the element caused, the element is caused because of standing. Then you have to take its cause as well as effect into consideration along with certain things. Then he has given few more examples over there. He has given examples that the continuous sedentary life producing acid peptic trouble, the bank workers generally suffers from acid peptic trouble. Such things of occupational hazard develops. But one more thing you can understand. Many females who had a problems at domestic life, they generally tells you, doctor, whenever I enters inside my home, all my problem starts. But as soon as I goes to for occupation, I forgets the disease. I never understand that why this happens. But whenever I'm at the work, so you get the rubric occupation diversion ameliorates, a clear cut indication. So you can get all those things, and all those things matters a lot. So everything is very important from your point of view, from homeopathic point of view. What he further says, modes of life means a great many things, different things. They come in as super numerates. over and above the natural conditions and circumstances of life. The natural functions and circumstances of life have to be considered in relation to the mode of life. The mode of life comes in as exciting cause of disease, whereby Sora, which is in the economy, is developed by certain peculiar direction. So modes of life certain times produces a disorder. Certain people who come to you they suffer from severe aseptic trouble, and then you ask the whole daily routine, and he says you ask at what time do you wake up in the morning. He says 11 o'clock. Then you ask when do you take the breakfast and lunch and dinner and all those things, and he explains that he sleeps at 3 o'clock in the morning. The person will going to suffer from acid peptic trouble forever. He will not going to get recovered because his mode of living itself is responsible to produce the soric manifestations, because it is the exciting cause. You have to ask regarding all those things, all the circumstances which happens in the life of the person and which are responsible to produce a disease. Today I had a patient who was suffering from severe acid peptic trouble, and then he was normal, and all of a sudden he started getting the acid peptic trouble. Then I asked, what is the change which you have done? And then all of a sudden he recognized, doctor, I have started taking green tea 3 or 4 times a day. The green tea itself contains all those strong irritant contents over there in the green tea, spices specifically, and because of which the acid peptic trouble bound to happen. So if a person is consuming 3 or 4 times green tea, he will going to suffer from acid peptic trouble. I asked him, just stop that. There is no need to take that. It will stop automatically. So this happens many times, and these modes of living affect the human life, and you have to take into consideration all those minute details when you deal with the chronic cases. Chronic cases are always important from this aspect, and that's why he explains all those things. And to conclude the chapter, what he says in the last paragraph, that will finish in today's session. The domestic is often the cause of trouble in the woman. There may be marriage to a man who is intemperate with her sexually. She may have she may have a domestic situation that cannot be cured, and it must be examined as to its permanence and the prospect of removing it. Things that cannot be removed will develop sorrow in a peculiar direction. All these circumstances ought to be examined to discover if there is anything that could be give birth to or keep the disease, so that by its removal the cure may be facilitated. So there are many things which happens in the domestic life of the person. A married couple might have problems. There might be disputes between them which are responsible to produce the disease. There might be anything, the harassment happens from the husband or from the father-in-law, mother-in-law, and which affect that woman. Certain types of many circumstances happens in the life and which are responsible to produce a disorder, and that at that time you have to take certain rubrics while dealing with the case. The domination from husband aggravates, there is a rubric. Domination from family members aggravates. You can take those are very important. So many times Indian female, she has to go towards the mm, in-laws house, and at that time the whole circumstances gets changed. There she has to adjust with each and everything which she was not used to. She has to do whatever is not there in her mind, and but she has to do it forcefully. Then you can get a rubric, undertakes things opposed to her intention. So these are the things which you can catch very easily and which affects the human life. And that's why case taking in general gives you all those details with which it is very easy to find it out, a certain rubrics as well as proper remedy. And that's why minute details always defines the patient more clearly, specifically when you deal with the chronic case. So here completes the chapter number 24. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Monday, we're going to learn chapter number 25. Again, the examination of patient. There are four chapters devoted to this topic, and all are important, which we'll learn in such a manner, in a practical manner. So that's all for today. And today evening, we're going to learn one more polycrest, Calcarea phos from Allen's notes. Again, a very common remedy in our day-to-day practice. For many aspects, we used to use the Calcarea phos. So be there at sharp at 8 o'clock with Calcarea phos from Allen's notes. So that's all for today. If any query is there, we'll have a chat. Otherwise, we'll conclude. So thanks a lot. We'll meet at 8 o'clock with Calcarea phos from Allen's notes.